Hi, in this lecture we are going to check the Java types. There are primitive data types, and the first one is the byte, which is 8-bit long, and the minimum value is -20, 128, maximum is 127. And there is short, which is 16-bit, and these are the minimum and maximum values, 32,768 minus and 32,767. And we have int type, which is 32-bit long, and we have long, which is 64-bit. These are integer real numbers. They don't have any decimal points. For decimal points, we have float type, which is 32-bit, IEEE 754. You can check the details from there. And we have double floating numbers. These are 64-bit IEEE floating point. And we have Boolean type, which has values true or false. And we have char, which are 16-bit Unicode characters. You can define all of the characters in the word, starting from /u 0000, and maximum is /u and ffff. Now let's go to our Eclipse Java IDE program and define these and see what types they can have. In our first lecture we have defined our first class. Now we are going to define these types. I'm writing byte, my byte I'm saying, and defining, for example, 32. And as you see, it is defined. If I define here, for example, 132, and as you see, the IDE is giving error. It's saying that type mismatch, cannot convert from int to byte, because the maximum value was 127 and minimum was -128. So I can define this between those values. I can say 100, but not more than that. As you see, the error is gone. Now it's just saying that the value of the local variable not used. And now check our other type, short. This is for 16-bit small decimal numbers. It's starting from -32,000. And let's write it short, my short, I'm saying, and defining it is equal to, what was the value? -32,768. So I'm doing -32,768. As you see, there is no error. If I go and make it, for example, 33,000, then it's going to give error. Again, it's going to tell that type mismatch, cannot convert from integer to short. So I'm going to make it between that limits. The third one is our integer, and I'm defining it, my int. It is the largest integer is 2 to the 31 minus 1. We can define it with our math library. For example, I can use the power, get here we can use power, and I will use 2 here, and the maximum was 31. So I can define it, and it's giving error, or it cannot convert from double to int. So I need to cast it to integer. So now the error is gone. As you see, it is math power 2 to the 31. If I write it 32, let's see what will happen. It's going to calculate it. It's not giving error now, but if I run the program, for example, it's going to give error because it's out of the limit. The IDE cannot catch it during the compile time, but during the runtime we are going to get the error. Let's run the program. Run, saying hello words, didn't give error. It's 31 minus 1. Let's make it 3. Why isn't it? Oh, it's not giving error because if we write it to the console, you will see that it is actually taking the when you cast it here, when you cast it, it's decreasing it to the maximum or to the low limit. I will run it and you will see. You see, this is the maximum limit that it can have. Actually, if it was double, for example, I'm going to define the same thing. I will say long, my long. So we should be careful about defining between the limits. Otherwise, our calculations may be wrong and the program may not give an exception, because when we cast it, it's automatically decreasing the values. Now we are going to see the difference. This is my long. I'm going to print also my long and we will see. I'm going to run. Let's check. Okay, it's saying save and launch. Yes, save. As you see, I'm assigning the same value, math power 2 to the third 3. When I assign it to integer, it is casting it and to the maximum of the integer. But actually, it is a big number. And in the long, when you define long, you are getting the value. So be careful about knowing the limits and the casting. When you cast it, it's going to define. For example, if I copy this one here and try to assign it to an integer, my int 2, as you see, it's giving error because the literal is actually out of range. So it's expecting maximum this value. If I take this and copy it here, then the error is gone. So be careful about it. Our next type was float. Let's define float. My float. This is a floating point number, like pi. You can define. It's giving error because it's saying that double to float. So I will cast it to float. By default, it's a double number. If I define double, my double, it is not going to give any error. Sorry. As you see, the floating point numbers by default they are defined as double. If you are going to define float, then you have to define cast it to the float number. And the other types were the Boolean type, which is having values true and false. We are defining it. It can have the value true or it can have the value false, as you see. And the last thing is our char, my char. I can define it between the single quotation like C, or I can define it with Unicode. My char 2 is equal to, let's get it from this here. This is the smallest value. So we can also define it like this, Unicodes. So these are the primitive types. In Java we have other types. We can define our own types and we can use them. And for example, if you want to use for currencies, for monies, you have to use big decimal, and we will see those in our next lectures. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.